Hello, 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 and welcome back to DLA Alternative. It's your boy Brandon, and I hope everyone is doing phenomenal as always. This one is kind of crazy, and it's going to connect back to the Mama is Alice Creel theory that we have not talked about for quite some time now. However, I had a comment on that video over the weekend, and it drew my attention, and I have been thinking a lot about how I'm going to continue that theory, and I think I have a way. And this comment came from Mackenzie Watson 4471. And basically, all it was her doubting the fact that Mama could be Alice. She's like, there's no way, I don't believe it, there's no possible way. So I have been trying to think of a way to develop that theory based off references and imagery. And it's been hard because I have a lot, I just don't know how I want to put it, and I don't want to bore you guys with more references. So how we're going to do this one is basically, this isn't going to connect directly to that theory, but it's going to try and prove to you guys that you don't need to question this Mama is Alice thing, and you don't need to question that Alice Creel could be alive, because there's reasons for that. So this is what this video is going to talk about. So let's get right into it. So the main purpose of this video is to get you to open your mind to the fact that Alice Creel could still be alive. And the major reason why I started thinking that was because Max survived, okay? And she's one of the victims from Henry #1 that we know, and it's his sister, okay? But however, we know that Max survives. So why couldn't Alice survive? So I want all of you people to go and review when we see these victims be taken, okay? With Chrissy, with Fred, with Patrick, and then with Max, okay? Chrissy, Fred, and Patrick are all pretty much the same way. We get that introduction with Chrissy, and we first see how these victims are actually going to be taken. However, if you think timeline, okay, the very first victim we would have seen taken would have been Virginia Creel based off of these victims and how this happens, okay? So keep in mind, they should all kind of match exactly to how Virginia Creel was killed and taken. So think about that. So basically, Chrissy, Fred, and Patrick are all very similar, and they're all exactly the same. But Max is a little different, and Max survives, okay? The reason Max is different is because if you notice that all of the victims when this happens, including Virginia Creel, all of the victims get their legs and their arms broken, okay? But right before they are actually fully taken, they get their jaw/neck broken, and then their eyes pop, okay? And that's the thing that does not happen to Max. Her neck never breaks, so she was not fully killed. And that could be a reason because, yes, someone could survive breaking all 4 limbs, all right? Both your legs, both your arms. You can survive that. Yes, it would be extremely painful, and I wish that upon fucking nobody. But however, you can survive that tragic of an event, and Max did. But if her neck was to break like that, she probably would not have survived even with Eleven's help. How do you survive a neck break after all of that trauma and a neck break, and then your eyes fucking pop? You're not going to survive that. However, we do see Max's eyes start bleeding. We do not see her neck break, though, and her eyes do not fully pop like that. And we know this for a fact. So the full curse, whatever Vecna Henry #1 was trying to do, even back with his mom, he did not complete with Max, and we know this, okay? So whatever happened at the very end of season 4, Max couldn't have been the one that completed that, or it wasn't completed properly. So whatever he was trying to fucking do did not fully work properly. Keep that in mind. So that's the thing that's interesting about all of those victims and why Max could have survived. So let's jump back into why Alice could have survived also in that scenario, because we do not see Alice get killed. We don't see her arms and legs break, and we don't see her eyes pop or her neck break. We never see any of that. And there's gotta be a fucking reason that the Duffer Brothers left that out specifically, that we do not see Alice die. You got to keep that in mind, that we don't see Alice die, yet all of the other victims, including Max, we see this happen to, yet Max survived. So we don't know for sure if Alice could have survived or not. There's not enough information, but maybe there is. And that's the thing I want you to keep in mind, is that we get some stories based off of that event, one from Victor and one from Henry. The Victor story, basically, he tells Nancy and Robin at the insane asylum that basically it's almost identical to kind of how Henry explains his, all the way leading up until Alice dies, basically. But when Victor's explaining it, he explains it almost identical, and he basically says that he saw what happened to Virginia, and then he tries to protect both of his children because he doesn't know what's going on. So then we jump to him by the front door, and Alice is all frantic and she's looking, right? And he's trying to open that door. And then Victor goes into that trance, okay? We see Victor go into that trance right after, and that's all he remembers. Because when he wakes up from that, Henry and Alice are both passed out on the ground. Alice looks dead. We don't know if she is. He thought she was dead, and he doesn't really go by her too much. And then he ends up grabbing Henry because he knows that he's slightly still alive. So basically, he just thought Alice was dead right away, and he's trying to take care of Henry because he knows he's alive for sure. So Victor's story is not credible to know if Alice was fully dead or not. That's proof right there. Then you jump into Henry's story, okay? And he talks about all of the stuff leading up until when he did that. And basically, he shows the same thing what happens to Virginia, right? He shows that he did that while his dad was going by the radio. So after we see what he does to his mom, it jumps all the way to that front door, and it cuts back and forth to the Hawkins lab scenes, okay? So we're missing parts of what was in Victor's story leading up to that. And all of a sudden it shows him, and he explains that with each victim, he grew stronger and stronger. Well, we know Virginia was one victim, okay? So logically, if Alice was the second victim, he should have been growing stronger, right? But then he explains that he was a child and that he didn't know how much he could handle. And while he's saying that, he is in a trance while he's doing that to Victor. So the point is, when did he kill Alice? Because we see Victor's story of when Alice was still alive and he gets put into the trance. And basically we hear Henry's story that the only reason Victor was able to come out of that trance was because Henry wasn't able to keep that going. So when did all of this happen to Alice? Because we know Vecna that when he's in a trance, he is asleep in that trance. And people could be right around him not being affected, and he's only affecting one person at a time. So therefore, when did that happen to Alice? And how did Victor not see that happen to Alice before he was trying to get out and before he got put into the trance? And why didn't Henry explain too much of this to us as well? You have to keep that in mind, that there's things left out about the situation strictly involving Alice's death. And it's very odd that those things are left out. So you got to keep that in mind. So the biggest thing that I'm going to end this theory with, and I want you guys all to do, is I want you to go to when Victor is telling Nancy about that situation, when he goes up to her to see if she's okay, and he thinks that she's dead, okay? Go to that scene and pause it right when he's putting his hand on Alice's face, and they do a close-up on Alice, okay? Go to that scene, because when you pause that, I want you to take a look at Alice, okay? And look at her eyes, okay? If you look close enough, it slightly looks like her eyes are still partially open. And also you'll notice that it does not look like her neck or her jaw are broken. Same with Max. You see blood coming from her eyes just like how it was with Max, but you don't see her eyes fully popped out of her head like it was with the other victims. If you really look close, they do not look the same as they do with the other victims. And her jaw and her neck are not broken. So you got to think logically that the eyes happen right after the neck. If her neck is not broken and her jaw is not broken in that scene, how would her eyes have popped? Because that's not in the sequence that it always goes for all of these victims. And the order of those things happening means a lot because they happen the same with every single victim, even with Max. Except again, with Max, we do not see her neck break and her eyes pop like that. So she survived. So if that's the same with Alice, Alice could have survived. Alice may have survived. And I truly fucking think that Alice did survive that. And there's something else that you may question is in season 4, when Vecna is looking for victims, okay? There's that scene when he's looking through and he's going through all of those mindsets and he's hearing everybody's like bad memories or bad thoughts, right? And he gets to Patrick. It's right before he gets to Patrick's mindset. Well, in that scene, you might be questioning, well, how couldn't he have found Alice then? And there could be a reason for that. And the reason being is going to fall back all the way to our Mama is Alice theory. I don't want to keep it about this, but I need to kick this off and end this video with this because I'm going to start working on that theory again. I want to know your thoughts down in the comments as well. How do you think Vecna was not able to find Alice in that moment if Alice is alive? Well, there's one reason for that. And the only reason that I can find that would make logical fucking sense is that Mama is Alice, and we know Mama, that her mindset is trapped and stuck. So that could have been a possibility as to why Vecna was not able to find her and does not know that his younger sister is a fucking alive. So think about that. That if Mama is Alice, he might not have been able to find her because of her mindset being stuck how it is. We don't know. We really don't know a lot about Mama. And that's what made that theory hard and why it hasn't been continued yet. But now putting this one all together, does it not make a little sense more that Alice could have survived based off of all of that other information? However, if Vecna could not find her, that's the only explanation I can think of, is that Mama's mindset is stuck and that he was not able to find her because of that reason alone. And if you really think about it, if Vecna ever meets Mama and this ends up being true, then he will know that his sister survived. And Mama's being kept hidden for a reason, and they did that to Mama's mindset for a reason. Maybe because she was withholding information, or she knew information that Renner did not want out to the public. Who fucking knows? It kind of all relates back to it, people. So let me know your thoughts. It's your boy Brandon, DLA Alternative. I know this was kind of a crazy one, but it got my mind going, and I want to know your thoughts. Much love as always. Keep subscribing, keep liking, and following the journey. Much love to everybody. I love you guys. It's your boy Brandon, DLA Alternative. As always, we out.